Today I'm just going to show you how you can get a wallet and move your stable dollars into this protocol. It's actually quite easy. They have GUI wallets. You can do that here. I'm not going to do that for the purpose of this video. I'm just going to get a web wallet. So I'm going to buy some Zeph on MEXC. I'm going to buy exactly $1,100 of USDT, and I'm going to get it for a price of 0.76 hopefully, and I'm going to get about 1,447 Zeph. So I'm going to go ahead and buy that Zeph. You can see here that some of it already filled, and I'll just wait for the rest of it to fill, and we'll come back when that's done. Okay, so I have my 1,447 Zeph. We need to withdraw this to the address that we have in our web wallet, and so we'll go ahead and copy that address and we'll send this over to that wallet. Okay, so we can see that the Zeph has made it to my wallet. It's 1,446. There was a 1 Zeph fee that MEXC had, and we can see now it went from pending to 20-minute wait, which is 10 block confirmations, and we can see it just dropped down to 18 minutes. That means another block just went through. We can look at the protocol state and see what the prices are. We have spot and moving average. We can talk more about that in a minute. We can actually click on this and we'll see an even more accurate spot price over here, and then we can actually hit this swap button and swap it to ZSD. It's not available yet because it's pending, but it will be fully available in about 18 minutes, and we'll get this much ZSD, which is the stable dollar, and it will always hold that value. And we can also swap ZSD to ZYS, which is where we can get the 30% yield. Okay, we can see that I have completed this transaction, so I can access my Zeph, and what I'm going to do is just hit swap and make sure that this says ZSD, and I'm swapping from Zeph. I'm just going to keep everything the same. I want 1,000 for this example. Just type that in. It'll tell you how much Zeph that's going to take. This is the swap rate, and there's a very small fee. It's going to cost $1. Go ahead and hit preview. This looks right. Hit confirm. And the transaction is pending. So soon I'm going to have 129 Zeph and 1,000 stable dollars that are private and decentralized. And then what we're going to do is we're going to transfer that stable dollar into the yield reserve so that we can earn yield on that. Okay, so it's been 20 minutes and the swap is completed. I have access. This is no longer locked, and I can now swap it to the yield reserve where I will gain yield. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that one. This is the yield share, and it's a reserve where every single block, so every 2 minutes, it's getting more ZSD put into it, because when the Zeph block rewards the Zeph, it's auto converted into ZSD by the code that is the blockchain, and that ZSD gets added to the yield reserve so that when I own a portion of that reserve, when I swap back to ZSD, I'm going to get a larger portion of ZSD because there's more in the reserve. So, and that's why it's able to go up in value. So this is a stable dollar, and it's going to go up in value. So you can see that the ZYS rate or price is 1.5701 ZSD. So for every $1.57, I'm only going to get 1 ZYS, and then this only goes up. So a week from now, I haven't done the calculation, but it's probably going to be 1.5 0.75 or something, and then I'll get more ZSD. So I'll have more than $1,000, and I'll make another video. We'll take a look in a week, and we'll see what happens. So we'll hit preview. This looks correct. Hit confirm. Okay, so the ZYS is completed, and now we'll see there was a small fee, but this is going to start growing in value from every block. Let's go ahead and swap to ZRS, and for simplicity I'll swap 100, and then if Zeph price goes up and ZRS goes up, then when I swap back I'll get more than 100 Zeph. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, you can see I have a little bit of all 4 different coins, and you can see actually my ZYS has already gone up 1 penny. It's been probably 1 or 2 minutes. And so this is just like staking, but you're staking a stable dollar, so it will never go down in value. Like if you're yield farming, you usually yield farm with the main asset, which goes up and down in value, and normally they go down in value faster than the APY of that yield farm. In this case, it's a yield on a stable dollar. So just like if you go to Aave, you lend your USD and you get APY, but you're lending it. Here, you're staking it, and you're getting reward from the blockchain. And so this can only go up in value, and we'll come back in a week and we'll take a look. We have dates here somewhere, right here. Okay, so you can see the current APY is 27.13, and you can actually see my $1,000 went into the reserve, and there's now more ZYS shares because I minted some. And you know, sometimes this is slow to update, but this will show that there was an update of 600 or whatever, and you can scroll down and take a look at all of this, and you can see in the last month or last 3 months what the percentage was, and you can go and do your own research. Okay, so it's been exactly 24 hours since I've swapped the ZSD into ZYS, and I decided I don't want to wait a week because I really want my ZSD to be in ZRS, and I'll show you how I do that. But the reason is because the price of Zeph is about to go a lot higher, and ZRS is going to go higher as a result, and I'll be able to later swap that into ZYS when the APY is higher, and I can do all this in the wallet. I never need to leave the wallet. I never have to go to a central exchange. I can do all of this within the Zephyr wallet. So right now it says it's 30%. It was 27% just a day ago, and the reason that it went higher is because the Zeph price went higher, and the Zeph price went up about 5 cents, and it drives the APY. So the higher the price of Zeph, the higher the APY, and that's because the APY comes from the block reward. So there's a reserve, and that reserve, it's like a pool, and that pool gets more ZSD every single block. So you'll see this update every single block. It's going to get 5% of that block reward. And the blocks, they mint Zeph, and so the protocol will auto mint ZSD from that Zeph. So the block will swap the Zeph that came from the block reward into ZSD and then add it into this pool, and that pool will get larger and larger, and I will have more and more ZSD. And you can do a calculation and figure out what that APY is, so that when I swap back out of ZYS, I will have more ZSD as a result of that. And of course also the fees, they also will go into the pool. So whenever you do a swap, there's a fee, and that fee doesn't go to the dev or to the miners, it goes actually into the pool. You can see this literally just updated, and it got a little bit more ZSD in it, and that's because a block was just found. Another thing that's noteworthy is that there are now 9,800 more ZRS minted. So obviously people are very interested in getting more ZRS. And in order to do that, you have to buy Zeph and then swap it into ZRS. And the reason you would do that is because the ZRS rate goes up faster when Zeph goes up in price. But it also goes down faster. So if Zeph goes down in price, the ZRS rate goes down. And what this rate is, it's the rate of Zeph you can get. So when I swap my ZRS back to Zeph, I'll get 1.75 Zeph. And you have a moving average and a spot, so always keep in mind the system is designed to protect the protocol from manipulation, and so you really want to swap between these different coins when these numbers are the same, because the protocol is designed to always give you the worst price. So in this case, if I went from ZRS back to Zeph, I would have to swap it at 1.73, and I would only get 1.73 Zeph per ZRS that I have. But if I just wait 24 hours, this will actually move higher because it's following the spot price. It's a bit complicated. I do recommend you read the white paper, do your own research, read the blogs on this website, go through the website, watch the videos. They're very informative. Let's go ahead and take a look at my wallet. Okay, so you can see that yesterday I had $999.01, and now I have 90 cents more. And I literally didn't do anything. It's the same exact amount as AYS, and it just accrued value from the block reward. And I did the calculation on this, and it comes to $321 over 365 days. So if you take 90 cents a day, and you times that by 365 days or whatever, it comes to like 321. And I invested $1,000. So at the end of the year, I'll have $1,321. That's 32% APY. And that calculation is probably a little bit off because it might not be exactly 24 hours from when I calculated this, but it's approximately 30%, and that's obviously what the APY is calculating on the website. And so obviously this is all very accurate. The reason it's below 1,000 right now, in case anybody's wondering, is just because there are fees. Like I said, whenever you swap, there is a very small fee, and that fee goes into the protocol. And so you have to wait a couple of days to get that fee kind of reimbursed, and then after that, when you swap back, there's a small fee as well. But this fee, again, it bolsters the protocol, it goes into the pool, it doesn't go to anybody else. And so this has been going higher, and if I were to wait a year, it would be up 30% if all things are the same. But again, the APY is variable, so if Zeph goes higher, it goes higher. If Zeph goes lower, it goes lower. And also, more people who add to the pool, that can modify the ZYS APY. But in order to go into the pool, you need to buy Zeph. So usually, if people are adding to the pool, Zeph price is already going higher, and so it will kind of balance itself out. That's something that's a bit complicated. You kind of have to think through those things, but I added $1,000. It barely did anything to the APY. In fact, the APY went up 3%, and I added $1,000. So if you have $10,000, probably not going to do anything. If you have 100,000 or a million, that's going to have an impact, and you want to probably move in slowly. That's what I would recommend. Anybody who's taking profits over this bull run, what they should be doing is buying a little bit of Zeph, swapping it over to their ZYS, and getting yield on that. It's going to be a safe, stable dollar that's going to grow over time. And for that reason, I think Zeph is going to have some staying power, because in order to get that yield, you do have to buy Zeph, and Zeph will increase that yield, and so it will become even more lucrative to do so and more appealing to people, and therefore Zeph price will generally go higher. So we'll kind of see what happens with that. But what I want to do now is I want to move all of my money into ZRS, because that is going to go up faster, in my opinion. It is a leverage position on Zeph. I think Zeph is going to go higher, so I think ZRS is going to go up even more. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then maybe after this bull run, I'll swap everything back to ZYS. All of this really was just to demonstrate how you can do this, how easy it is. You just buy some Zeph on MEXC or wherever your preferred exchange is, and then you just move it over to your wallet, swap it over to whatever coin you want, and you have private yield on stable dollars, and you can have the ZRS, which will back the dollar and give you rewards for doing that. By the way, ZRS gets 30% of every single block. So when new blocks are found, 30% of that Zeph goes into the Zephyr reserve. And so that is another reason to buy ZRS, is because it's gaining value from every single block as well. But the way that it's calculated is it's more volatile. So you have to kind of understand this before you buy it.